It's a trap.
It's a trap!
Bitcoin has crashed to nearly 90K and everyone is losing their minds. Markets are reeling and many are asking, what is happening? The incoming president is saying 1929 may be on the horizon. Did Janet Yellen lay an economic minefield to undermine the incoming administration? And if so, what does it mean for Bitcoin? Well, if history rhymes, things are about to get bullishly explosive. Believe it or not, we just entered the most bullish setup in Bitcoin's history. So when Samson Mow said this,
everything is different now, and we can very rapidly go up to 1 million.
Well, he really may have been onto something. Now, you're going to want to stay until the finish because we have big news out of Mother Russia. The global hash war is accelerating. We got a lot to get to today. Set!
What's interesting right now is that we've entered into really a new Sputnik moment. Various nations are scrambling to build up the biggest Bitcoin stock that they possibly can because nations are beginning to understand that this is the new prima franca of the 21st century. The entire global economy is being rebuilt on top of Bitcoin, which is really perfect money. So in the case of Russia and the recent comments coming out of the Kremlin, they seem to be now ready to enter the space race or the global Bitcoin race. Because at the end of the day, when you have something like Bitcoin that's better than anything else as a store of value, the market will recognize this and you start to see people sell off other assets and move into Bitcoin.
Welcome to the global Bitcoin hash war, ladies and gentlemen, trademark Max Kaiser, and anyone selling their coin right now, well, they got some serious problems ahead and we're going to get to that, but let's start here. What has triggered all the paper-handed pansies? And what is going on in the bond market? They're revolting! Something is happening because the newly elected president is saying we are headed to a 1929 scenario in the market. And according to this guy, we've got some glaring similarities. Extreme speculation followed by rapidly tightening policy. You remember when everyone said, oh no, there'll never be a recession, soft landing. Well, now it's funny, and you gotta ask, so how did the script flip? And did Yellen set up minefields all over the US economy to undermine Trump? Let's take a look. We got three big minefields highlighted here. Mine number one, the jobs market. The big chunk of resilient job growth is allegedly driven by government hiring. Translation, those private sector jobs are heading south, leaving the official data propped up by Uncle Sam's giant wallet. That's the first ticking time bomb, and it's set to blow if Trump tries to cut government spending or shrink the deficit. Mine number two, inflation. Now, in this article, it says that Shadow Stats claims true inflation hovers around 6.5%, not the official, 2.5%. Now, if you're feeling the pinch on groceries and rent, maybe you're suspecting the official numbers are a teeny bit optimistic or just fraudulent. Now, while the government is piling up debt like there's no tomorrow, the article calls this a repeat of the 1970s fiasco, and the bond market might be screaming, look, we know what you're doing, Yellen. And if Trump comes in swinging with new import tariffs in a climate of already stealthily high inflation, well, Dario predicts fireworks, and Janet Yellen herself called the tariff plan deeply misguided. Now let's go to minefield number three, the banking sector. Unrealized losses. FDIC data from June suggests U.S. banks have around $517 billion in unrealized losses. It's like a secret stash of toxic confetti waiting to rain down on depositors. And I think, guys, it's fair to say that Jerome is no friend of Trump. He's not leaving. You remember that?
If he asked you to leave, would you go?
No.
Can you follow up on, do you think that legally you're not required to leave?
No.
If push comes to shove, the Fed might conveniently time a banking crisis to explode when the new administration is in charge, causing chaos. If you put all these minds together, well, you've got a chef's kiss scenario for a perfect economic storm in Q1 of 2025. And that's right after the inauguration. The ultimate message is that Trump will inherit the mother of all economic booby traps, complete with ballooning debt, hidden inflation, a shaky banking sector, and a rigged job market.
This town needs an enema.
In short, the current administration's spending, data spin, and debt ramp-up have built a house of cards, and that house of cards may be crumbling down soon. Stay tuned, or better yet, stock up on the popcorn and fret not, my friends. Because at the end of the day, do you know what this all means? Listen to Lawrence Lepard.
If we're in a sovereign debt crisis, and I think we are, and if we're going to have a lot of inflation, I think we do, and if we're going to go to have a monetary reset, there are going to be real winners and losers. And you're not going to get a do-over. It's not going to be like, oh gosh, I missed it. Maybe we could wake up one day and the government could say, we're going to a gold standard, we're taking the price of gold up to $20,000. Well, you either own gold and gold mining stocks or you don't. They're going to go up enormously. Same thing with Bitcoin. I mean, the U.S. could say we're going to do a strategic Bitcoin reserve and the Bitcoin price could triple. Well, if you don't have any, you don't benefit from that. Because of the risk of monetary debasement and the fact that there will be no do-over, I would just strongly encourage all of your listeners to have some allocation of their wealth into things that the government can't print. The government can't print gold, government can't print silver, government can't print Bitcoin. And the government can print dollars, and they're going to print a shitload of dollars.
The perfect storm is here, and when it hits, when Bitcoin rips, it's going to be barbarous. And everything is lined up. Not only could we see $1 million Bitcoin in 2025, but we also have a pretty good idea of when you can expect to see the Omega candle. But before the big reveal, look at our likes.
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
Hey, don't forget to like, subscribe, give us a pamp while we take a moment to recognize our sponsors, the masters of Bitcoin self-sovereignty, the Bitcoin way. You're looking to learn how to Bitcoin, how to properly secure your Bitcoin? You might want to head on over to the newly revamped Bitcoin Way website where you can begin your road to Bitcoin sovereignty today. If you're looking to schedule a free 30-minute consultation, go ahead and use that link below in the show notes.
We know that both China and Russia, Russia's been kicked out of the global financial system. What are they supposed to do? Just go die? No, they'll figure out another system, obviously. And so there's a lot of stuff coming out of Russia. I don't know how much we can believe, but where Bitcoin has been legalized and maybe they're already starting to acquire Bitcoin. They're starting to use Bitcoin. Some of the BRICS nations, I'm sure, are doing the same thing. They're all trying to find a new currency. What we have is the world is breaking apart. Since the 1940s, after World War II, the world got much more centralized. Currently now the pendulum is swinging back the other way and we're starting to decentralize, multipolar. And so now Russia's over here and China's over here and the BRICS are over here, the US is over here. And what's happening right now is they're all trying to figure out how are we going to do global trade in this era where we don't have a global currency like the US dollar. Each country is now trying to manipulate their own currency. The BRICS are trying to say they're going to start their own currency, which I think is a nothing. It's probably never going to happen. None of those nations will ever trust each other. And ultimately, what the world is going to inevitably fall on is there needs to be what was intended in the Bretton Woods Agreement, a neutral reserve asset. That's what we have to have. We need a neutral reserve asset that nobody can control, that nobody can manipulate, and everyone could agree to that. That used to be gold. Gold doesn't work in the information age. So we need a neutral reserve asset that works, that's compatible with the information age that we're in. And the only option for that, the only option is Bitcoin. And I believe that's where we'll eventually settle.
We have been talking about this a long time, that countries were going to use Bitcoin to obfuscate sanctions, and it's happening. Russia trades dollars for Bitcoin. Check it out. Russian companies are now using Bitcoin for international trade. Russian Finance Minister Anton Silyanov, quote, as part of the experimental regime, it is possible to use Bitcoins, which we mine here in Russia, in foreign trade transactions. Such transactions are already occurring. We believe they should be expanded and developed further. I am confident this will happen next year. This is absolutely massive. And in case you forgot, just recently Putin came out, threw shade on the dollar, and praised Bitcoin as untouchable.
The share of the US in the world economy is reducing, and it means that the influence of dollar on world economic processes is also reducing. That is why, quite naturally, we see processes with the use of other instruments. For instance, Bitcoin. Who can prohibit the use of it? No one.
And check this out. In a global Bitcoin arms race, it looks like there is a clear disadvantage for the US and an advantage possibly for Russia with having little to no debt. And you heard Mark Moss there. Everyone is looking for that neutral money, the best form of money ever created. But Mark Moss and the Bitcoiners are not alone. We have Goldman Sachs calling for multinationals to add Bitcoin to their balance sheet. Roll it.
Could we see truly a lot of major multinationals putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet and that kind of thing?
I think it's conceivable, yes. And I think as we've started to see, over the last year and a half, a lot more clarity, probably outside of the US. I think there's obviously been a big spike in the valuations across the whole crypto suite, as we've seen since the US presidential elections. That obviously is driven by what we expect will be probably a more favorable regulatory backdrop, and that gives confidence to kind of the institutions more broadly.
You see, everyone's little models. I don't know if those models account for Bitcoin's phase transition into a reserve asset. Godzilla's walking into the playground. Throw your models in the trash. You don't have to listen to me. Listen to former Trump CFTC chairman Chris Giancarlo explaining why Bitcoin is digital gold.
In the previous world, the analog world, what cash was to gold, in the digital world, digital money may be to Bitcoin. Let me give you another example. We live in a time where 1 out of every $4 has been printed in the last 5 years. We are actively debasing our currency. And at the same time, Bitcoin has, into its design, programmed scarcity. You can never have more than a certain amount of Bitcoin. And so the dollar is depreciating, Bitcoin is appreciating. Quick factoid. In 2018, the average American home would have cost you over $260,000 and over 400 Bitcoin. Today, the average American home is now over $460,000. It would cost you less than 5 Bitcoin.
Maybe why they're trying to move so fast for their strategic Bitcoin reserve to obfuscate the Fed, which Trump and Powell, they just don't get along. Call me crazy. I don't know. Guys, are we going to end the Fed? I mean, just look at this. The top 60 global companies already hold nearly 600,000 Bitcoin, worth approximately $60 billion. I hope you're paying attention. And we also have convertible bond demand intensifying. One bond market dies, another one rises from the ashes. Guys, the perfect storm to send Bitcoin to $1 million in 2025 is here. Take a look at this. 2025 is going to be legendary. Now, in the past, there was never the demand and catalysts as well as hyper Bitcoinization like on the horizon. Those are returns in basically normal cycles. And historically, Bitcoin has entered the parabolic phase after breaking its previous all-time high. 2013 peaked 273 days after the all-time high. 2017 peaked 233 days after the all-time high. 2021 peaked 328 days after the all-time high. So for this 2025 cycle, if history repeats and Samson Mao is right, we could be looking at $1 million Bitcoin anywhere between June and October of 2025. Now, I know what you're thinking. I'm late to Bitcoin. You better think again, my friends.
But for people all freaked out about getting invested in Bitcoin now because like, oh, it's so fucking high, you were kind of saying that like, dude, it's the same as if you got into $7,000 onto where it's projected to go. Like, it's not that bad to get Bitcoin right now due to the fact that like it's still going up.
It will always be better to get. So it's like it would be akin to saying like, do you think it's a good time to adopt the wheel? Do you think it's a good time to adopt fire? Like, do you think it's a good time to adopt the internet? It is literally just
you're not
better,
gonna win like on a shitcoin when it like
better monetary technology. You always want to adopt it. Yes. Obviously, preferably, you would have adopted it 10 years later, or earlier, excuse me. That would have been awesome for you, but there's no bad time to adopt Bitcoin.
You know what else is a bullish signal for 2025? Mining Disrupt in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It's the biggest Bitcoin mining conference on the planet, and it's coming to Fort Lauderdale March 25th through the 27th. Get your tickets today and join thousands of Bitcoin mining professionals and enthusiasts from around the globe for an electrifying experience at Mining Disrupt. See the latest cutting-edge hardware, products, and services that are revolutionizing the Bitcoin mining industry. For over half a decade, Mining Disrupt has been the premier conference and expo exclusively dedicated to the Bitcoin mining industry. Be part of the future and join the movement that's shaping the world of Bitcoin mining. Don't miss out. Head over to miningdisrupt.com and get your tickets today and use promo code SimplyBitcoin for 20% off. Oh, and the Simply Bitcoin news desk, it's going to be on site. I'm going to be there. Nico and Opti are going to be there, and we hope to see you there. Hey, hope you guys enjoyed this one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and give us a pat by spreading the Sound Money Gospel. I hope you all had an amazing Christmas. And remember, it's always darkest before the dawn, and the bright orange future beckons. Hey, love you guys. Catch you next time. Peace.
If you prefer to go down with the ship, you.